These evidence pairs are usually very difficult because there's a lot of information to sort through. But what I've done here is I've removed the passage and limited us just to the lines that would be given to us in the second part of the evidence pair. Can we still get the answer right? Let's see. So the first thing I would do is make sure I understand the question. Which choice best reflects the narrator's perspective regarding her thoughts about James? Okay, so it's a very specific thing that we'd be looking for. Now, normally I would just skip these first few choices and go right to part 2, but I do notice very quickly that I have some very strong words in all of these choices. That's a good sign. These are things I'm going to be able to tell, right? To be intimidated or embarrassed. These are very strong emotions, so we should have some evidence of them if they're right. Now, going down to the line references, I'm looking for anything that kind of relates to any of them. Let's just see what we get here. So line A, it just really talks about like where she is. So this is just her setting. This isn't really saying anything about her mood or her thoughts. It's just really like a description of where she is. Choice B has something pretty good. There were two lives. We have two uneventful lives until fate brought us together. She loved him. So maybe that has to do with optimistic. That's just a generally positive point, so I'm going to keep that in. It seems to relate to her thoughts about James. Let's move on to choice C. Perhaps it is indiscreet of me to write that down, but what does it matter if it is for no one's reading but my own? Well, I'd love to know what that is. Now, we can tell from the line references that it does follow the previous one, so it's clearly related just based on what I've given you. But even if not, we would have the whole passage. We would be able to see what that she's talking about writing down. It's her thoughts about James, her love of James. So this also relates. It's not as obvious what her feeling is here, but it definitely relates to the original question. We have to leave it in. Choice D, same thing. It says that it's the thrilling morning of her life, so she seems very happy there too, very positive. So right away, I kind of know that some of my choices from part 1 are wrong. I know she's not feeling intimidated. I know she's not feeling regretful. Those are negative emotions. There's nothing negative in any of the lines that we read. Now, I'm drawn to choice D because it says optimistic. We definitely have her feeling really good about her relationship with James, but it's very specific in the second part, so make sure you check every single thing. It's not enough that optimism works here. James had previously expressed his desire to marry her. In order for me to pick this choice, I need evidence in the lines of that very specific idea that he expressed his thoughts about marrying her. We definitely did not read that. So yes, maybe she's optimistic, but the second part of this choice does not make any sense, and that's a really big trap that the SAT likes to set for you. They want half of it to be right so that you're drawn to that half, but then the other half is wrong. So that leaves us with choice B, which is the answer. She's embarrassed because she would not want James to know how she feels. Well, knowing how she feels has to do with, well, in line reference C here, she's writing things in her journal, but no one's going to read it, so she doesn't really care. So is it really obvious that she's embarrassed? No, but once I see that word and I can see the lines, I see the connection, right? She's writing things down. Maybe it's indiscreet of me to write down that I love James, but I do, and I'm a little embarrassed by it, but don't worry, no one's going to read this, so it's okay. So that's why that's a good match. I don't think it's an obvious match at first, but that's how a lot of these evidence pairs work. We have to kind of narrow our choices down until we find a pair of answers that answer the original question. That's difficult, but with time and practice, you can get it down to a science.